In this video, we're going to rip down this fascia and this soffit right here, and we're going to reinstall new. This house has no gutters, and it needs gutters. And the only way I can put gutters on here is to redo this because it's so wonky. It's got a big bow in it down there. It's not even up underneath the drip edge here. So it just needs to be taken care of before it can get gutters. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's take a closer look at what we got going on. We have a little bit of traffic noise going on this morning, but as you can see, the fascia here is okay. Just this 8-foot section or whatever, however long that is. They left this piece of old fascia in place for some reason. But then if you look down the rest of it, you can see how wonky it is. I started prying on this right here a little bit and noticed that this just wants to come right off. So I'll go ahead and remove that. That won't be in the picture anymore. But as we walk down, you can see just how crazy this is. And you can see the big gap here between the drip edge and the fascia. And that's just not good. And then you can see right here is a big bow out, and then it really dips in, and you can see down here there's probably an 1.25 inches of exposed material there where this should have come out further. And then we're also going to have to put a gutter up here, but as you can see, that wood has major issues. So I'm going to replace all of that wood as well, and probably try to bump that fascia board out so that that strip is no longer needed in there, because that'll just make life more difficult to get a gutter on and to get it sealed up right. So we're going to start by tearing a bunch of this off, so let's get going. So I already started prying right here because there's just a little gap in there, so I was able to get my crowbar in there and start prying this, my flat bar. So I'm just going to go ahead and see how much of this I can pull down. So it looks like there's 2 pieces of material in here. Or the plywood. The plywood is actually delaminated. So there is some insulation in there I'm going to have to deal with. Not much, it appears. But some. So it seems as though all this used to be exposed. It looks like it was painted white at some time. So I believe that the insulation that I'm seeing is just some residual, and there's not much in here at all. This board though is coming with what used to be a rafter tail. Maybe it's just a piece they put in to secure this and not part of the rafter at all. they cut the rafter back to put a board in there to support the wall, or the top plate for the wall, and they cut this off at that point in time. So, and this has never been painted. It is also not dimensional lumber. Tells me that it was done quite some time ago, or they got the lumber at a local mill or something like that. Alright, let's keep pulling it out. I think life's going to be easier if I pull this little blocking off. Alright, I'm going to keep tearing this off, and we'll come back and we'll take a look here in a little bit and see what we got going on. I have most of the soffit off. I still have this little piece behind us here, and as you can see, there has been a lot of something living in there in the past, and they were all getting in through the little crack that was right here left between the soffit and the fascia. No one caulked that or sealed that up, so that's how everything got in there. A little piece of a wasp nest, and then all these little larvae of whatever they are. And yes, this used to be exposed because it's painted, so it's an obvious indicator that at one time this was exposed. I've got this piece of fascia off, so now we're ready to pull off the rest of the fascia and start getting this set back up to go back together. So as you can see, there's been a strip added in here from the original roof, and I'm not sure why that was done, and I don't know how far that goes, but I'm thinking that maybe the roof wasn't square, but I see a little dip down there where this comes out wider, so I don't know exactly what's why they did that, but they did it. So now that's what I have to work with, because I'm not going to rip the whole roof off to fix all of this, and I still have to pull this piece of fascia off to get this to come out and meet up with the new board. And then what I'm going to do to get this out where it needs to be is I'm going to build tails to screw on to these rafter tails here that are just going to stick out and leave that 3/4 of an inch right here to nail onto. So let's pull off the rest of this fascia. the fascia boards are so far back that they're actually trapped underneath the pitch of the roof, kind of like this, and it's just very difficult to get them to the nail to pry away. I just got one out. I'll keep working on some more. Once I get a couple, I'll be able to pull it off a lot easier. I'm going to keep pulling them off. Alright, it's like way later in the day. I had to take care of some other stuff, but I got a little bit done. I'm going to show you what I got, and then I'm going to show you how I came about the angles for the piece that I did put in. I've put this new piece on and just scabbed it up against the other, and this is what I mean. I'll show you how I came up with this angle and the angle back there. It's pretty easy. The rest of these don't need to be tucked up in like that. I've got a string running across because the fascia was good down on that side, but there's still some issues that I got to figure out. So I'm hoping the camera shows it, but like right there, the roof kind of takes a little dip, and then it does it again just a little further down. So I don't know what's the best way to be able to show you these. Let's come this way and look back and see if that helps a little bit. It is actually much harder to see from this direction, even for me. So some of these are down really low from the string. Now I believe these to be truss tails and not just pieces that were scabbed on, but I might be wrong. So because I can't really see back there without tearing some more stuff apart, and they would be rafter tails, not truss tails. This would be rafters. So keeping that in mind, I have to kind of muddle my way through this, knowing that I'm not going to be able to get this, I'm not going to be able to alter the roof. So I need to make it the best that I can with what I have. So we got a long ways to go and a short time to get there, but we'll get it. Also, the roof is a little bit like this, and you can see it more down there with the string. It tucks in some down here, and that's part of an addition. So you can see the style of the tails changes from this to dimensional 2x4s, where they cut in a big huge bird mouth. I'm not sure why they did that so big like that, but and then this was the exterior wall right here. So it used to end right here, and then they put this addition on, and it's the same thing down here where I've scabbed this piece on. Actually it's back this way, used to end right here. So everything that way is also an addition. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's 2 additions. So at any rate, we'll get it worked out. So what I'm using to find my angles is a sliding T-Bevel. I'll put a link down in the description for this, and it replicates angles. And I'm using that for the back side, and then for the front side I'm using a pocket level, a torpedo level, and I'm just marking it plumb, so then I can mark it, cut it, and it's plumb. It's straight up and down. so it should be replicating the outside wall. If not, then it's better than the outside wall. I'll show you how we get this angle real quick. The sun's kind of fighting with me right now. I snugged the thumb screw down just a little bit, so this will still move, but it'll stay where I put it. Slide it up here on the wall and come to here. And then that is the angle. So now I can just take this and set it on the side of the 2x4 and mark it here, cut it, and I've got that angle. And then it's the same thing here. Just come off the end, mark it, cut it, and we've got exactly what we need. I've got a little bit of a nightmare going on here, and I'm not positive what I'm going to do to correct it, so I have to muddle my way through this a little bit, and it's not going to be a very good video. So I'm going to get some stuff figured out, and then I'll come back and tell you what we got going on. Okay, here's what I've decided to do. I'm dropping down this piece right here that I've scabbed on 3/4 of an inch. Unfortunately, there's so much variation in the structure itself that the next one is 1 inch, the next one is 1 inch, and the next one's going to be 1 inch. And what that's going to do is get my fascia board nice, straight, and flat in accordance to this string that I've got pulled across here. That string goes from one end to the other. I am going to have a slight little transition here, so I will take a piece of the old material and put it back. It's 1/4 inch plywood, and that will leave me about a 1/2 inch protruding, and then my other plywood will come to here, so I'll have a little bit of an edge right there to take care of. No big deal. This is the best way I could think out of this. The whole reason I would never want anyone to open something up like this and run into what I'm running into, and this is because of the addition. We got a wasp already trying to move in. So right here, I'm hopeful that you can see it. This is the roof from the existing structure, and that is 3/4 inch tongue and groove. This is 1/2 inch plywood. Well, they missed the mark by so much that the 1/2 inch, the bottom of the 1/2 inch plywood is basically at the top of that 3/4 inch material. So that creates me issues up here. It creates me issues along the whole span of this. And not only that, but it's up and down kind of wavy. So I have to contend with that as well. Right now my goal is just to be able to get this straight enough to put a gutter on. So once the gutter's on, a lot of that you won't even be able to see anymore. Before, it was such a disaster that it would have buckled the gutter trying to attach it to it. So yep, a whole lot of work just to put a gutter on, but that's kind of where I'm at. So the bottom of the house has rotted before, and they replaced a section. Well, the section beyond that, where my little scaffold, my platform is also rotted at the bottom. So I'm going to do something different along here to correct all of that. But before I go through all the effort to do any work there, the water has to get under control, and that's with gutters. Why there's no gutters? My neighbor's house, no gutters. The house next door, the other cottage on this property that's mine, no gutters. The house next door to that, no gutters. Everywhere I look around here, there's no gutters. I just don't get it. But at any rate, we got to get gutters on here to stop that wood, because the water just falls, hits, splashes back onto the wood, and then in time it rots it. So gutters it is. I've got some more pieces cut out and ready to go in, and as you can see, I'm just clamping them on. I'm marking them to the bottom of my string, and then I'm clamping them on and putting screws in them. So you can see I'm right at the bottom of my string, and the same thing here, and the same thing here. I'm just using 4 2.5-inch decking screws to hold them on here. And as you can see how far off that one is, that one, that one. So the whole thing needs to be straightened up. Some down there are so high that it's really bad. So when I put the new soffit on, I don't want that looking like, you know, the ocean either. So this is what we got to do to get it straightened up. Alright, I'm going to keep putting these on, and we'll come back when I'm ready to start getting some soffit and some fascia board in here, because this isn't really something I intended to be doing. I thought it'd be kind of a pull-off, straighten a few of them up and then put it back on. But this is straighten every one of them up because, you know, it's a nightmare. I couldn't know that there were 2 different thicknesses on the roof board. I do know that when I look up here at the roof, I see humps and stupid stuff going on that's going to have to be corrected when we get a new roof. I also know that there's 2 layers of shingles on here, so it's kind of a mess because the shingles underneath get kind of weird too. So at any rate, we got a ways to go, and we'll come back once I get all this done and get ready to start putting some fascia board on and some soffit in. I was quite a ways along when I decided I just didn't like how things were going. So I basically started over. So here's what was happening is some of these timbers up here they're not dimensional lumber, they're rough sawn. So as we get down here, some of these are 4 inches, not 3.5. And my string line just wasn't low enough, and I was going to wind up having to basically cut the bottom off of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 of them. I would have to take a 1/2 inch off the bottom of them, and that was going to be a real pain. Trying to get in here with a sawzall or using an oscillating multi-tool would have taken a long time. So I decided to drop my string line down an additional 1/2 inch on both ends. So now that's taken care of my problem basically on all of them except for 2. So now 2 of these, this one and this one, I have to cut off. The rest of them have all came right to the bottom now. So I still have to pull these back down to the new level. And then here where I had the 1/2 inch to begin with, I now have more. So this is no big deal. I can fix that up. It'll just be a little step down from one soffit to the other. Doesn't break my heart. It's going to be closed in. No one will ever really know the difference or that it wasn't supposed to be like that, but this was all caused because of the addition. You can see how much lower my 2x4s are than the 2x4s that they used. So in the very beginning of the video, you may have remembered that right here I tore a piece out that had like a fascia board in between the 2 pieces of soffit. Well, I didn't quite understand or realize that that was 2 whole different levels of soffit going on there. So now I do, but I'm not putting it back like that with a break in the middle of it and different heights. Just not how I'm putting it back. So this is what I'm doing, and so far we're going pretty good. It is going to have a little dip in it through this area right here, and only because I cannot get the 3/4 behind the drip edge if I follow the string, because there is a dip in down this way. So unfortunately it is going to have a little bow in it, but I believe the gutter can handle it just fine. So I'm going to keep getting these put on. This is a 26-degree angle cut, and then on the rest of these it's just straight off the back. But I'm going to fix the rest of these, get them down where they need to be to the new string line before I cut anymore. But these have all been corrected, So I have like 9 more to do once I get those corrected. I have all my new end pieces scabbed onto the rafter tails, and I am ready to start putting my soffit in. Unfortunately, there's about 5 of them here that kind of take a dip up, and there's just nothing I could really do about it. So I'm hopeful that when I put my fascia on, I can tweak that just a little bit to at least get to the edge of the soffit. So I'm ready to pull my string down now and start putting my first piece of soffit on. And what I've done is I've just screwed a couple of 2x4s together right here, and my plywood is going to slip right in there and just hold this in for me so I can focus on the other end. I'll get 1 screw in it, and then I will come back and adjust this and get a screw in here. Then I can take this blocking right off, but that's just my second person for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this string down, get this camera set up on a tripod, and get this first piece of soffit in here. Alright, I got a couple of screws here. My screw gun sitting right here, ready to get this up there. Pretty toasty today, but at least there's some wind. Maybe a storm later, I'm not sure. I'll have to see if it comes this way. So I'm going to, like I said, take that in, slide it right up in those 2x4s to hold it up there. Then I can focus on this side. Nobody said it would be easy though. So, I already see a problem here. There's a little bow in the wall holding me out considerably. So I need to take care of that. Woo! That's a lot. It's sticking out about 1 inch down there. So what I really need to do is take the screw back out and try to keep this about a 1/2 inch away so that I'm only trimming out the middle that I need. Alright guys, with a lot of struggling and a couple of times taking it over to trim it some more, I finally got what I want here. Hopefully the rest of the pieces aren't this bad, but I think what I'm going to do is just overcut them. I'm going to cut them a 1/2 inch bigger or something, carry them over, get them in place, and just kind of mark them instead of having to go through this. So one up, a couple more to go, and I'll be down to the end. So I'm going to go ahead and get some more screws in this. I am using 1 5/8 exterior construction screws to hold this on here, and then I'll go through with some caulk in the end and cover up those screws so you'll never be able to see that there's screws there. I've managed to get 3 8-foot pieces of soffit on, and every one of them were as difficult as this first one. I had to put them up, take them down, put them up, cut them a little bit. It was a little bit of a nightmare, which is understandable because the roof itself is kind of all over the place. So you can see the soffit also, especially right there, is a little bit all over the place. But the rest of it is running out pretty straight, even though the roof is not straight at all. So with the 3 pieces in place, I have one more 8-foot piece to go. And of course I had to notch out around this window a little bit, and so we've got one more 8-foot piece to go, a little bit shorter. It's like a 1/2 inch shy of 8 feet, and then we can get the fascia board on. I did put a little bit of this old trim right here back on. There's nothing wrong with it, so I'm just going to put it back on, and then I'll caulk all that up real nice, make sure nothing can get in there. I've completed all the soffit, and I put one piece of the fascia on. I still need to complete the rest. I've got one ready down here with some countersink holes already in it, but everything's going, I guess, as good as planned. My plywood's a little bit funky right here. I don't think that'll cause me an issue at the end of the day. I've got this end tidied back up, so that's what I'm going to wind up with here. Not bad. I'm thinking I'll like that all right. So I am ready to get all this fascia on. So I'm going to set you up on a stand, and we'll get this piece put on right here. I've got one screw started right in the center, and that's going to just kind of hold it exactly where I need it. I can fudge each end as I go. So I've got an extra screw right here. I'm going to hold that in my mouth and get this thing slid up into place. Alright, I'm going to get the rest of the screws in, get the rest of this fascia up, then we'll come back and we'll do some caulking. Whoever takes that off is going to cost me. With everything finished up, we're ready to get some caulking on here. We're going to be using some DAP, Dynaflex Ultra. This is a really good exterior caulk. Not a sponsor or not sponsored by, obviously, but just one of my preferred choices. So let's get started. I've got me a few rags and a putty knife, and we're just going to kind of get started right here. Some of this drip edge is not super tight, so I'm going to caulk along this drip edge. Something traditionally you would not really have to do. We've got a little gap right here. I want to caulk that. And I got a little gap right here. I want to fill that. Now for this, I'm just going to use my finger, take a nice little swipe at it, and that'll be fine. A little bit of that right here. And then for this area here, I'll use my putty knife. That is what I want. And the same thing up here. Very nice. I want to go underneath of here, but first I'm going to get this just right up against this drip edge and fill in these holes for the screw. You screw a little dab on each one of them. Now my putty knife, just to push it into those screws. there's any big issues with the boards, you can smooth over knots in bad areas like this with a little caulk also. Won't hurt a thing. Alright, I'm just going to keep going like that till it's all done. Alright, it's now time to take this stuff off. I'm sure it won't be hard to remove it all. And hopefully most everything underneath is good. But I am going to go ahead, this isn't a very big piece, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, see what we got underneath. Possibly this plywood probably needs to be replaced. Maybe prime it before I go back on with the new stuff, just to help better protect it. But gutters will also stop this from happening, so I'm gonna get that taken care of and then we'll go from there. Got to clean that valley out too, that's pretty bad. Okay, here's what we got. The 2x6, I believe is what this is incredibly rotted behind the fascia board all the way down. This is not a horrible repair. In fact, I've got this piece of soffit off, so you can see that there's just some stringers in there holding this up. So maybe some nails through the plywood from the top up here on the roof sheathing. But I have to think about this because this whole problem started right here. This isn't right. This should be flashed, and I'm just trying to ponder in my head the best way to flash this. And then second, they put that small strip of wood here on top of the fascia board, and I'm not going to go back with that. I just want to go with the fascia board. So I'm going to move this out also in the process to where the 2x material here is 3/4 an inch away from my drip edge here, so my fascia will just slide right in. Now I could cap the fascia with metal and then use some roofing sealant through here to stop it from getting back in. So, or this is going to have to be flashed. This will never be able to be re-shingled under here when the roof gets replaced. This, even once the soffit's on, you couldn't even begin to swing a hammer in here or do anything. So this whole section right here really and truly needs to be closed off, fascia, and be all done with the shingles. And then, you know, you'll have to put some flashing in here to stop any leaks with some sealant. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm going to reach out to a roofer and see what he thinks the best option is here, but I think that that's what it is myself. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I think that's what it is. So anyway, I'm going to figure some stuff out, and then I'll keep tearing this apart and start going back with the new. pry in here and we'll have all this out. I've cut rafter tail extensions and put them on much like I did down this side of the fascia. And the reason for that is that there was a fascia board on top of a 2x6. It just didn't need to be there, and what that did was just created a moisture trap and didn't help the situation any for that rotten wood. So what I'm going to do now is I've decided that this area is getting boxed in. Let's take a closer look. So what I'm going to do is remove all of the shingles in here. I'm going to put a new piece of wood straight down here and flash it, and then it will take care of most of my rot issues and give me better water control in the first place. So what I've got is my sliding T-Bevel slid in there to give me the angle. I've used this T-Bevel, sliding T-Bevel has been heavily used during this whole entire process. So I just wanted to show you another way that it is being used right now to give me this angle to go cut this piece of wood. So I'm going to cut the piece of wood and I'm going to get it up against here. Then I will mark my shingles and cut them. So I'm going to go get this piece of wood cut on that angle right there and get it set in here and get my shingles marked out. Alright, I've been working to get these shingles out of here, and it has been a challenge to say the least. There are at least 3 layers of shingles here, maybe 4, which is just mind-blowing to me. You can see the shadow that the shingles are casting here. It's crazy how thick they are. That is an inch of shingles right there. It is just crazy to me. If you are redoing your roof or thinking about redoing your roof, do not ever let them shingle over shingles. This is horrible. I just can't even believe that someone would do this. It is just that bad. There's 3 layers of tar paper, and there's just a pile of shingles. So I'm going to finish getting this cut out of here, and then we will finally be ready to start boxing this in. This roof is going to have to be replaced sooner or later, but the tear off costs are going to be immense. Quite the pile of shingles for the little area that I've ripped off right there. I've got the flashing in, as you can see, and it's stopped flashing. I'm not too awful concerned about everything being perfect at this point in time, because I know that the roof is going to have to be redone. It might be a couple years, but irregardless, so long as this doesn't leak, most of it at that point in time, if not all of this, will get removed and basically redone. Now, not all the fascia, but all the material. So I've got this board cut here, and it fits in there pretty good. It is going to serve the purpose for what I need it to do. So now the rest of it, unfortunately, I might not be able to get it in there all the way with one hand, but we're close. So I'm going to go ahead and get that into position and screwed into place, and then we will get this soffit in first, and then we'll figure out the rest of the box in, and everything should go pretty doggone easy from there. My sheet of 1/2-inch plywood is screwed in for the soffit. This all lined up a whole lot better than this side over here did, that's for sure. Now I am ready to go cut my piece for here to fill in the box. So I'm going to measure this out and go get it cut and get it set in there and see what it looks like. Alright, I've got the end cap cut out here, and we are ready to close this box in. And yes, I test fitted a couple of times before we are ready to go here, because I had to trim it a little bit. So I did screw a small backer piece of 2x material right here to secure it to. And now I've got 2 holes countersunk right here, and then I'll have to put this piece of flashing back. So what I want to do is push this in there nice and flush. Very nice. That is what we want. Now when I put some roofing tar in here along this flashing, get all this flashing secured, I'm going to put some white fascia on here as well. So, or some white flashing. It'll cover the entire thing one piece. Then it'll look tidy. And then the fascia board will close it all up. So now we need to get our fascia board in place, and then we can start caulking everything in. Okay, the fascia board is ready to go on. So this area right here, I didn't know exactly how this was going to turn out until I got this fascia board on. But I can see what I have to do here now, so I will be able to go ahead and take care of that. But I think I just want to put another piece of 1x on here that's going to kind of line up with this piece of fascia they have right here. So I think that's all doable. I am in the process of getting some caulking on, but I'm running out of daylight fast. But I'm pretty sure we'll get this done. If I can get this all caulked tonight, then tomorrow I'll be able to prime everything. caulking is complete and one coat of primer. Now what I'll do is I'll come back over that caulking, especially those screws, and touch all them up before it gets painted. And on the underside, I already went back through what I did here last week and touched up all the caulking on the screw holes and stuff like that. Got a couple of spots that I missed, but otherwise we're looking really good here. Alright guys, that's all we got for this time. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those two videos, it's going to pop up next to me. And remember to always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon.